My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Lamens, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Samas, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time it is in the world, wherever you are tuning in from. If it looks like I've only slept for a few hours, it's because I have only slept for a few hours. I was up late last night watching the culmination of Stefanos Tsitsipas against Daniel Altmaier, and that wasn't the end of the drama, by the way, because we also had Nuno Borges and Tommy Paul. I wasn't able to stay up that late to see the conclusion of that. We'll come to those two matches shortly. Do make sure you hit that like button. And of course, if you are new to the channel, hit subscribe. We're going to start off, though, with the women's side of the draw. And we're going to start off with Aryna Sabalenka, who is still very much alive and kicking in this tournament. She's going to be playing Leylah Fernandez next after a straight sets wins over Kudermetova and Massavarova in the previous round. So she's yet to drop a set, unlike her biggest rival, who's on the other side of the draw. Again, we'll come to her shortly. I do see, although Sabalenka, by the way, made an interesting comment in press about she remembers 2021, at least in terms of the result, but she says she can't remember a single thing about the match. Of course, 2021 was the semi-final when Leylah won. I do see Sabalenka getting some revenge, though, and progressing. I know that Sabalenka, in terms of a player who can defend for their life in the way that Leylah can, just like Coco Gauff can eventually thwart Aryna, but I don't think Leylah can do what Coco can do quite as well. And I do see Aryna eventually overpowering Leylah, and especially Leylah with the serve as well. Doesn't have that serve that Coco has that can often get her out of trouble and put her in trouble. But we'll come to that as well shortly. Elise Mertens through in straight sets. She's going to be playing Buxa after Buxa beat Eala. Eala, again, it's the serve undermining her chances. And this was a match full of breaks and could easily have gone 3 sets, and who knows from there. But ultimately, Buxa proved to be just that little bit too solid for Alex, particularly, as I say, in that service department. Mertens, though, will probably be too strong for Buxa and then set up a third-round clash with Aryna Sabalenka. A lot of people obviously very excited about Elena Rybakina playing Emma Raducanu. That is going to be live on the channel later on today, so do please tune in for that. We've also got a preview out there as well, giving you some insights into how we think this match is going to turn out. So that's obviously Emma Raducanu against Elena Rybakina coming up. I think it's first on, isn't it, today? On Armstrong, is it? Yeah, anyway, do check out our preview for that match. I'm going for Rybakina, and I think most of the Talking Tennis team are, but to varying degrees of comfort for the 2022 Wimbledon champion. But listen, if she has a slightly off day, we do know that Emma now is consistent enough to punish her. So that'll be interesting to see. Okay, next up, what have we got? We got Vondrousova against Paulini. Vondrousova, of course, also a Wimbledon champion, although from 2023. Coffee check. Going to be coming up against a Wimbledon finalist of 2024. Who's the favourite in this one? Well, I guess with the bookmakers, Jasmine Paolini. But I'm going Vondrousova to progress. We've got Pegula coming up against Azarenka. Azarenka surprising me, actually, in her 2 wins, but particularly the one against Pavlyuchenkova. Straight sets. Pavlyuchenkova is so good at the slams. Getting to the 4th round or the quarters in Wimbledon this year. And also obviously going deep at the hardcourt slams on a regular basis, and a French Open finalist of 2021 too. Anyway, Azarenka swatted her aside 6-3, 6-3. Also probably surprising for me was Pegula's comfort in her win over Blinkova. Blinkova can have off days, and this was certainly one of them. Pegula, though, that's not a bad draw for her, and I do see her eventually getting to round 4. Samsonova is going to be playing Lee. Sorry, how dare I? Hon is going to be playing Lee. Sorry to give heart attacks to Hon fans and boosts to Samsonova fans. Samsonova, quiet shock, perhaps you could argue, losing in 3 sets in 2 hours and 5 minutes. Going to be coming up against Lee. Lee also pulling off a minor surprise in beating Belinda Bencic. That is a 50-50 for sure. Emma Navarro progressed at 2-1 over McNally. I think the comfort of the scoreline will surprise. She's going to be playing Krejcikova. If Emma Navarro brings her absolute best, probably she wins. But will she? And Krejcikova, not dropped a set, by the way, getting to round 3, beating Mboko in the first round, albeit an injured Mboko. Let's go for Krejcikova to thwart. It's the second time I've used that word, and I'll try not to use it again. Emma Navarro, blunt Emma Navarro, and progress. Ostapenko Townsend, huge drama in this particular encounter, with lots of people commenting on this on social media. I think, I think both of them are prickly characters. I do think so. Ostapenko used the expression "you're badly educated," which I think is a translation in a lot of languages I'm familiar with, and I believe Latvian may be the same. It just means rude. And yeah, Townsend, a bit like Ostapenko, can be very, very spiky. I think that Ostapenko is obviously upset that she lost the tennis match. That's it for me. I think anything else is probably blowing things out of proportion. Anyway, Townsend's going to be playing Mida Andreeva. Andreeva again winning in straight sets. She's barely dropping games as well. She only dropped 4 games against Potapova, so that's an impressive result for Mida. And I think she's obviously the hot favorite to progress to round 4 against Townsend. But then things will get more difficult for Mida, where she'll play obviously Navarro or Krejcikova. After that, we've got Diampari knocking out Zarazua. Zarazua spent a lot of time on court and a lot of third set tie breaks. That was 7-5, wasn't it, against Madison Keys in the third set. But either way, super tight match. This time she had a super tight match with Diampari and came off worse. Marta Kostyuk, by the way, I think was a really fascinating clash that she had with Zeynep Sonmez. A lot of fun and a lot of good ball striking from both players. Sonmez redlining at times and bringing her absolute best tennis, but in the end, just falling short against Marta. And I do expect Marta to also beat Diampari. Noskova, by the way, breezing past Lise. Lise unfortunately had to retire, but she was a set and a break down at the time. Noskova set up an all-check affair, by the way, against Karolina Mukova. A really entertaining match she had with Chastea that had quite a few twists and turns. Lots of breaks of serve, despite the fact we had 2 tie breaks there. And Chastea, by the way, an excellent match point save as well at one point in the third set. But ultimately, she wasn't quite good enough to gain revenge for her loss in the quarterfinals at the US Open of 2023. Mukova against Noskova. For me, Noskova's the slight favorite, partly because Mukova, I don't think really in 2023, 5 has brought her best tennis that we saw towards the end of 2024. And so, yeah, Noskova wins that one for me because Noskova is purring. Okay, next up, we've got Kasatkina against Osaka. Osaka swatting aside Baptiste. Kasatkina coming through and saved 3 sets against Rakhimova. And I think it's a nice draw for Naomi. And Kasatkina could be frustrating. If Osaka can keep her cool, she progresses. Magdalena Frech, by the way, is going to be playing Coco Gauff in the next round after Gauff came past Donna Vekic in straight sets. And Frech, by the way, beating Peyton Stearns. Although Frech is the 28th seed, maybe that's a small surprise, but Peyton has thrown in a few unconvincing performances of late, let's say. Anyway, she progresses. Coco Gauff, Donna Vekic, wow. The first set, quality. Second set, Gauff just steadied herself, and I think was the right thing to do. Vekic also had some wrist or arm injury issues where she had an MTO for that as well. But Gauff really not showing the kind of form that would suggest she's a threat to win the title. However, given the draw, she probably has enough to at least set up a Naomi Osaka clash, and boy, that would be eagerly anticipated. And maybe she just needs something like that to get her US Open going, Coco. So we'll see. Anisimova is going to be playing Christian. Anisimova beaten joint. And a joint serve for the first set, by the way. But ultimately got the jitters. And once that happened and Anisimova broke back, it was one-way traffic from there. She set up a clash with Christian, who beat Kruger in 3 sets. And I do expect Anisimova to progress to round 4 and probably beyond. Another round 3 clash here. We've got Haddad Maia against Sakkari on the radar because Haddad Maia beat Golubic in straight sets and Bondar was dispatched by Sakkari. Nice draw, really, for Maria in terms of the fact that Svitolina was knocked out by Bondar. And maybe Sakkari can reach round 4. Why not? That match with Haddad Maia is a clash of those that are not in form. And one has to win, but you then expect Anisimova to be too strong to get to the quarters. Oakley dokley. We're racing through this draw right now. In fact, we're now at the bottom of it. As we can see, Alexandrova is going to play Laura Siegemund. Siegemund continues to win Grand Slam matches. She's going to play Alexandrova. Alexandrova will be the favorite. But who knows? Laura's Grand Slam year might well end with a flourish. Iga Swiatek is going to play Kalinskaya. Maybe this is the first true test, but on paper anyway. And yet, she was tested by friend of the show, Susan Lamens. Lamens can take the racket out of a lot of players on tour. You wouldn't necessarily expect Iga Swiatek to be one of them, and yet at times that did occur. Lamens made a real fight of this, obviously, just over 2 hours this match, and it was 3 sets. Lamens was down a double break as well in the 3rd set, and that proved to be too much of a deficit to reclaim. She did get one of the breaks back, but then eventually ran out of road. Iga dropping a set. I don't think there's any need to be concerned. Let's think about it. Iga, by the way, in her last 4 tournaments has lost 2 matches. She won Bad Homburg. Sorry, she got to the final of Bad Homburg. She wins Wimbledon. She loses to Towson in Cincinnati, and she loses to Towson in Canada. Wake up, John. And she gets to the in Canada and wins Cincinnati. So her form is imperious. She's barely dropping sets as well, but this is a set that she dropped. She only dropped 1 set in her Wimbledon title winning run. We have an interview, by the way. I think it was with McNally, wasn't it, who dropped that, who took that set away from her. And we have an interview with her actually on the channel that was conducted by Brenner. So do check that out. Anyway, Iga Swiatek Kalinskaya. Yeah, on paper, perhaps for her first test of some sort, but I think she comes through that probably in straight sets and then probably plays Alexandrova in round 4, but that is still to come. Okay. Do hit that like button, by the way, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you're listening as well on the podcast, please do give us a follow there. I think it's a subscribe or whatever the expression is. And also give us a rating as well. Please do give us a rating on Spotify or whatever the channel is you're tuning in on from for that. Also give us a follow on TikTok and Instagram at Talking Tennis TT. All right, over to the men's. Jannik Sinner, straight sets win over Popyrin. I suggested he might drop a set in this encounter. Didn't occur. 3-2 and 2. Probably even more comfortable than I imagined that to be. Sinner's going to be playing Shapovalov in round 3. Again, I think this is, for rounds 2 and 3, for Jannik, this is probably about as difficult as it gets. I mean, I guess Bublik, who we can also see on our screen, might have proposed a bigger threat to Jannik. But Shapo has an incredible peak. He came through in 4 sets against Royer. However, Jannik Sinner against Denis Shapovalov. Sinner's going to be the hot favorite there. Let's have a quick look at their head-to-head. Jannik, of course, yet to drop a set. Shapovalov dropping that set, as you can see on the screen. Their head-to-head is 1-0 in the favor of Denis Shapovalov, who won their only encounter at the 2021 Australian Open. It was a 5-set affair that Shapo won, so 6-4 in the 5th, so super, super tight. But Shapo was, let's say, at a better stage of his career than Jannik was at that point. And Jannik, obviously, in this US Open clash, will be the hot favorite. And again, I'm saying he might drop a set, but he'll prevail. I said he might drop a set against Poprin, and he didn't, but he did prevail. Bublik, by the way, beat Skulkate. Really comfortable. Bublik really did well to deal with the Skulkate serve. And Bublik, by the way, into round 3, not dropped a set. Unlike Tommy Paul, who dropped 2 sets en route to the quarterfinal, won the first 2 sets, and I thought, okay, Tommy should be okay now. And yet, Nuno Borges fought back. It was a really tight affair. I mean, look at this. Tommy Paul came through 7-6, 6-3, 5-7, 5-7, 7-5 in 4 hours and 25 minutes. Well, if he needed a physical test, Tommy, he got it, and he came through. Nuno really made him work for it. Check out the match point, by the way. It's a bit of an epic one, if you can. And Nuno Borges' reaction to losing that match point was to take his hat off and then whack it with his tennis racket, much as his frustration. Lost a lot of tough matches this year, has Nuno. Hopefully this gives him some confidence going forward in terms of his level. But anyway, Tommy Paul against Bublik. Given that match and the nature of it, I'm actually siding with Bublik in this encounter, the 23 seed to overcome the 14. But we'll see. It's certainly not easy to predict Bublik matches, and we'll see. Okay, next through. Jack Draper, by the way, I know it happened a couple of days ago, but I do want to highlight this. Withdrew from the tournament, and therefore Zizou Berg's got the walkover against Jack. And yeah, Jack probably wasn't quite right. This tournament came a bit too soon. Played the mixed doubles. Didn't look, in terms of his form, great, albeit that everything else seemed okay. First round here, the alarm bells were ringing after dropping a set to Gomez, and he wasn't fit enough to take the court, so get well soon. Jack, Zizou Berg progresses as a result. Bergs is going to play Munar, who overcame Diallo in another sort of quiet, under-the-radar upset. Munar is having a quietly good season, actually, to be fair. And he's going to be playing Bergs, and I think Munar might well be the favourite to reach round 4 of a hard court slam, and it means one of Munar, Cobolli, or Musetti are going to be in the quarters. Probably Musetti, but Cobolli might have something to say about it. Anyway, it's a wild part of the draw, and it's wild as well in terms of some of the stuff we saw on the court. Look at that result, by the way. I saw the end of this Cobolli-Brooksby match, and what an epic encounter it was that Cobolli won it on a 5th set deciding set tiebreak. Described by some as one of the matches of the year, and I think it's hard to argue against that. Brooksby certainly brought in. Cobolli very commendable in his speech, giving some nice words for Jensen. Jensen as well is, it's good to have him back on tour, especially the variation that he brings, but ultimately didn't quite have enough to knock out the 24 seed. So all Italian affair between Cobolli and Musetti. Musetti winning in straight sets over Goffin, losing just 6 games. And yeah, Musetti, I think, is the slight favorite there, and maybe the slight favorite as well to eventually get to the quarters. Okay, moving on. Zverev, straight sets win over Fernley. I heard Isabel talking about this match yesterday, and Fernley didn't really wake up until the 3rd set. But Zverev came through, and things are looking good for Alexander to make the 2nd set. He's going to play Felix Auger-Aliassime. I saw the end of the match that Felix had against Safiullin. Coffee sip. If you're a willing coffee advertiser, by the way, we are open to sponsorship. But that goes for anyone else as well who wishes to get in touch. Please do reach out. Yeah, Felix overcame Roman Safiullin in 3 sets, 6-1, 7-6, 7-6. So much tighter couple of sets there. Felix is going to be playing Zverev next. I'd be very interested to know. I think I checked out. 6-2, right, yeah. Their head-to-head that Zverev leads, and I expect him to extend it to 7-2. If you're just tuning in, by the way, do hit that like button. And of course, if you are new to the channel, please hit subscribe. Okay, Wong, by the way, creating more history, reaching the 3rd round of the US Open. He's going to be playing Zverev. Both Wong and, he's going to be playing Rublev. I've just spoken about Zverev. Wong is going to be playing Rublev, both coming through in 4 sets. Wong over Walton and Rublev over Boyer. Rublev, of course, will be the warm favorite to set up a 4th round clash with Alexander Zverev. Let's see if that materializes. Khachanov, another shock, I would suggest. Probably a bigger one than the other ones I highlighted. Losing in 5 sets to Myshak. Probably bigger as well because he was 2 sets to love up. And Myshak on a hard court is putting up trees, arguably, winning the Challenger in Poland a few weeks ago, and now winning 2 rounds and probably 3 maybe, or possibly 3, after Reedy upset Cerundolo. Cerundolo getting a taste of his own medicine. He came from a 2-0 down in the first round, but actually lost a 2-0 lead to Reedy in the second round. So Reedy, Mysak round 3, that has Damien Kust written all over it. Do check out one of the worst tweets of the year from Damien in terms of Reedy and Kim and some wordplay regarding Federer. It's on social media. Okay. Tsitsipas, by the way, losing in 5 sets to Daniel Altmaier. Altmaier, by the way, pulled off. Basically, this was, in a way, was a battle of the backhands. One has a very decent one-handed backhand and one doesn't. And the one with a very decent one pulled through. Tsitsipas, by the way, did not cover himself in any glory whatsoever at the net at the end of this clash. It was a stupendous clash, 4 hours, 21 minutes. Really exciting, had lots of twists and turns with players going up breaks and losing those break advantages. And in fact, I think Tsitsipas had a break advantage in the 5th that he was seeded. Match point as well, Stefanos, albeit on the Altmaier serve. And yet at the net at the end of the match, Tsitsipas has a go at Altmaier for doing an underarm serve. Daniel Altmaier, by the way, just sort of stepped away from Altmaier and thought it was a very warm exchange for the first 1 or 2 seconds, and it was. And then Tsitsipas didn't want to let him go, didn't want to let him get away with this underarm serve that he did in the 4th set. Absolute nonsense, Stefanos. You lost a tennis match. You've lost a lot of tennis matches. Concentrate on your tennis and not your opponent's underarm serves, which is a legitimate part of the game. You owe Daniel Altmaier an apology for trying to take away a special moment for the German. Anyway, de Minaur won in 3 sets over Moshe Zuki and sets up a clash with Altmaier. And of course, de Minaur will be the warm favourite from this section to reach the quarterfinals, I would suggest, because Altmaier followed by Mysak or Reedy. And yeah, de Minaur 8 seed quarterfinals makes sense. Oakley Dokley, Djokovic dropping a set to Svider. I nearly said another set, but of course he didn't drop a set to Lerner team, but it did feel like a real battle at times against Lerner. Had another battle here, but once he went up an early break, or once he went up a break in the second set, never really looked back. And he set up it's a nice section of the draw that's really opened up for Djokovic in terms of the fact that we had Mickelson in there, and he went out first round. Sebi Korda was in there, and yet retired injured, and Holger Rune as well is out, losing in 5 sets to Jan-Lennard Struff. Really pleased for Jan-Lennard, proving me wrong amongst others in terms of his durability. I feared the worst for Jan-Lennard when he told me last year that his hip issues just won't go away. I thought, okay, this is a scenario you're just going to have to manage it and try and get as many tour wins as you can. And maybe, who knows, maybe pick up another 250 title or something like that. And yet here he is winning in 5 sets against Holger Rune. Where this leaves Holger is another matter entirely. An extremely disappointing season with no titles and an extremely disappointing Grand Slam year where he's gone out early in all of the slams. Yeah. Anyway, congrats to Jan-Lennard Struff. He sets up a 3rd round clash with Tiafoe. You'd think that Tiafoe would be the favourite. Francis dropping a set to Dam. But ultimately, Francis will probably have too much for Jan-Lennard. Cam Norrie is going to be Djokovic's opponent. He came through a test against Comisano in 4 sets and 4 hours as well. So a real durability affair, that is, if that even makes any sense. But Djokovic will be fancying his chances, licking his lips against Cam Norrie and then potentially Francis Tiafoe to make the quarterfinals. Oakley Dokley, Mensik going out, another quiet upset, losing to Blanchett in 5 sets. Machac dispensing João Fonseca in probably a lot more comfortable fashion than many of us thought, winning in straight sets 7-6, 6-2, 6-3. So it's going to be Machac against Blanchett. And you'd think Machac will reach round 4, where Taylor Fritz could well be lying in wait. Fritz, by the way, a little bit fortunate in his encounter with Lloyd Harris in the second round in terms of the fact that Lloyd suffered some physical issues from set 2 onwards, and that was when the match changed, albeit probably Taylor comes through that anyway. But yeah, fingers crossed that Lloyd can stay healthy, because when he's healthy, he's a welcome addition to the tour and he can win lots and lots of tennis matches. But Fritz coming through in 4 sets over Lloyd Harris to set up a match with Kim, who beat Nakashima in 5 sets. But you'd think Taylor Fritz should have too much for the Swiss, and therefore Fritz against Mahac. Fritz must be looking at this going, there's a quarterfinal there. Can I take it? Okay. Moving on through, Shelton dispensing Pablo Carreño Busta. We had a preview for this as well. I think no surprises there that he came through, but also very comfortably. He's going to be playing Manarino. That's going to be a battle of the lefties, isn't it, of course? Have Shelton and Manarino played before? Let's have a quick look. Head-to-head between Shelton and Manarino. They have, yes, they have 3 times. And Manarino has the lead 2-1 in their head-to-head. But as I wondered, and I wanted to check quickly, who won the most recent encounter? Ben Shelton in Canada, where, of course, Ben went on to win the title, and Ben won it 2-3. The previous matches, by the way, came at the Australian Open of 2024, and that was a 5-set affair that Manarino won. And the previous occasion to that. So all their clashes have come on a hard court. So that gives us some intel. But I think the most important intel will be their most recent clash, which, of course, came just a couple of weeks ago or a few weeks ago in Canada. And Shelton came through that with flying colors. And I expect him to do the same. Oakley. Lahetska's going to be playing Collignon. Collignon, the Bonn Open semi-finalist. Who would have thought that he'd be in round 3 in New York, beating Casper Ruud in 5 sets. Really disappointing end to the Grand Slam season for Casper. Didn't play Wimbledon. Went out early of the French, where clearly he had an injury which put him out of the grass court season. Some might say no disappointment there for Casper. But anyway, yeah, got to the final of the mixed doubles with Iga Swiatek. Perhaps that's the highlight of his Grand Slam year. In fact, I think it's pretty obvious it is. But yeah, disappointing end to his Grand Slam year using 5 sets to Collignon. But congrats to the Belgian. He's going to be playing Lahetska in the next round, but I think the Czech will be a warm favourite there to then potentially set up a clash with Ben Shelton in round 4. Oakley Bonzi coming through again in 5 sets, this time against Giron. How much energy will Bonzi have in the tank? Well, he might come up against a similarly fatigued Artur Rinderknech in round 3, who had to come through in 5 sets in another quiet upset over Davidovich Fokina. Time for a coffee sip. So there's going to be a Frenchman in round 4 in the shape of either Benjamin Bonzi or Artur Rinderknech. I'll go Bonzi, but it's a 50-50. Darderi's going to be playing Alcaraz in round 3. Darderi came through in 4 sets over Spitziri. And Alcaraz swatting aside Bellucci 1 and 3. So 6-1, 6-love, 6-3. Alcaraz yet to drop a set at a Grand Slam. And you know what? I think he can get to round 4 without dropping a set as well. Darderi is a very capable player with a very snazzy forehand, let's say. A little unique in terms of the quickness of it, the quickness through the air. And yet, on a hard court, I think, if this was on clay, I think I'd be a bit more intrigued by it. But I do see Alcaraz progressing. And then he's got Bonzi or Rinderknech to get up to the quarterfinals, where, of course, we know Ben Shelton is a potential opponent. But what a first week for Alcaraz, and maybe first 4 rounds for Alcaraz it could be, in terms of he doesn't very often get to quarterfinals of slams without dropping a set. I wonder if he's ever got to the quarterfinal of a Grand Slam without dropping a set. Quite possibly not. Anyway, that rounds off the draw. And yeah, it was great to see you all. I'm going to swiftly move on because I'm going to be playing tennis in 45 minutes and I have to get going. Thanks for those of you that joined us on Instagram and on Twitch and on YouTube. Remember, you know the drill. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.